by a radio talk show host. I am very blessed. I have a son Matthew, I have a wonderful staff, my wife Bernadette. We all count our blessings, but we also are aware of the pain, the hardship, and the sufferings of others, and that's what community service is all about. And radio remains today, in all media, perhaps the most dedicated to community service, still is. And one of the nice things about talk radio is it made community service a hip way of building audiences. Whereas music radio might be involved in winning money and giving out prizes and appealing to other aspects of human need and want, talk radio tends to always be there when there is a need. Boomer Esiason is an intelligent man, a very, very reasoned individual who, in the wild and woolly world of sports talk media, in the bigger crazy world of talk radio, is a voice of reason. But that beyond having been a great quarterback and a great radio and television commentator, is very involved, having been inspired by learning that his son, Gunnar Esiason, has cystic fibrosis, in doing everything he can to give back. And he has established the Boomer Esiason Foundation. And that specifically is the hook upon which we are going to hang the giving of this award today, the presenting of this award to Boomer. And so, I will read to you what it says. Talkers presents the Sharon L. Harrison Memorial Award for Outstanding Community Service by a radio talk show host to Boomer Esiason on June 7th, 2012 in New York City at the New Media Seminar. In recognition of his outstanding career as a sports media host and commentator in which he consistently sets an example for fairness and thoughtfulness, and specifically for his valuable contributions to the betterment of humanity via the establishment and spearheading of the Boomer Esiason Foundation, a dynamic partnership of leaders in the medical and business communities, joining with a committed core of volunteers to heighten awareness, education, and the quality of life for those affected by cystic fibrosis, while providing financial support to research aimed at finding a cure. We present this proudly to Boomer Esiason.
Well, thank you for that standing ovation. I appreciate it. You have no seats here. I don't know why, but you have no seats. And I just also want to remind everybody that I am not a lesbian. That's very interesting, but I do want to say thank you so much for recognizing our foundation. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to two guys in here today, or two gentlemen here today, that thought enough of me to put me on national or local radio, but it has a national signal because of the power that it does have at WFAN. And that's our program director, Mark Chernoff, over here in the ugly shirt. And then Chris Olivero from CBS Radio. I don't know where Chris is, but those two guys 5 years ago came to us, Craig and myself, and asked us if we wouldn't mind partnering together to become the morning show on WFAN after, unfortunately, IMUS was released. And you think about freedom of speech and what that means in our medium. I also think of it in the world of sports, the freedom of stupidity. Because the moment somebody puts their foot in their mouth, it makes news and it gives us hours and hours and hours and hours of discussion points. And thankfully, we have Rex Ryan in town here, who gives us just so much to talk about. And it never ends, which is really good. And that's why every time I'm with Rex, I tell him, just keep talking, baby. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine for us. But you know, you talk about community service, you talk about the medium of radio and television. You know, oddly enough, when I was an NFL football player back in 1993 and I got traded to the New York Jets, my hometown team, it was a great moment in my life. And after about 2 weeks of becoming the Jet quarterback in May of 1993, I found out that our son Gunnar was stricken with cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic disease that you're born with. He showed signs not until he was 1 year of age, and then of course at 2, then we also found out that he was diagnosed with it. And prior to that, I had already been a part of cystic fibrosis fundraising back in Cincinnati, where I was the quarterback for the Bengals, prior to us having any children. And at that time, The reason I became the face of it is because in 1988, when I won the NFL's MVP award, I was at a banquet getting ready to receive my award. They had seats at that banquet, however, but and we were sitting there for a long time. It was about a 5-hour banquet. It's down in Washington. And there was a speaker that went on before me because I, at that time, had no idea that there was a charitable component attached to that dinner. And a man got up there and he spoke so eloquently about the loss of his daughter to this disease of cystic fibrosis. And I couldn't believe that this man was there talking to about 1,000 people so stoically and heroically in my eyes that in previous years he had lost his daughter to cystic fibrosis. There was not a dry eye in the house, and then I accepted my award after the fact, which was a very tough thing to do. But after that, I went up and I introduced myself to that gentleman, and I said, "How can I help?" And he said, "If you go back to Cincinnati and become the face of cystic fibrosis for us, run a golf tournament, you know, celebrity waiters luncheon, whatever it is, you can make a difference, especially if you get involved with the Cincinnati Children's Hospital." So I did. And that guy, his name was Frank DeFord. And Frank wrote a beautiful book about his daughter Alex, also put a movie out there. And he was really the first face of cystic fibrosis nationally to help raise money. And every day that I think of cystic fibrosis and where we are today, from where we were when Gunnar was diagnosed, I thank Frank DeFord and all those families that have gone before us that lost loved ones to this disease. When Gunnar was diagnosed in 1993, the median lifespan was 19. It's now up to 37. Our foundation has pumped over $100 million into drug development. We put it into hospitals. I'm an advocate for cystic fibrosis patients' rights. They are innocent victims. And what radio has done for me, it gave me the opportunity to meet the governor of New York. And at that time, that governor happened to be David Patterson. And I called David Patterson and I said, "David, I just got a call from our national office down in Washington, D.C., and they said there's a bill in the works in New York City where there's going to be, in the state of New York, where there's going to be an unintended consequence against cystic fibrosis patients in the state. And if I can explain some of the reasons as to why I think this would be no good, if you could kind of get that out of the bill, I would be very grateful." And Governor Patterson, he didn't say yes right away. He said, "Let me get back, let me look at the bill," and I hope the governor remembers this conversation we had. And literally 2 days later, he called me back and he said, "Boomer, good news. You're exactly right. It was an unintended consequence. We're going to take it out of whatever the bill was at that time." And I've never really had a chance to say thank you to Governor Patterson personally. I've done it on the radio a number of times. But Governor, I want to say thank you very much for making that happen for us. Thank you. So interestingly enough, and I'll leave you with this, and I don't want to pick on our brethren in this industry because I love radio. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I took morning radio, and I had no idea really about the partner that I was going to embark this career on. And I have to tell you, my partner Craig Carton is the spark plug of our show. He is a guy that is a great teammate. He is the ultimate point guard, and as a former quarterback, I recognize that in order to be good at what you do with somebody else, you have to recognize that person's brilliance, you have to find out what that guy does really well, and then you have to exploit it as best you can. And he's so for me, and I think I've taught him something about being a good teammate. He certainly has taught me something about being a good radio talk show host and what works and what doesn't work. And I'll tell you, we have a great time in the morning. And the reason that I'm in radio today is because of my failings on TV. For some of you that don't know this, in 1997 I retired from the NFL. In 1998 I took a job with ABC's Monday Night Football. I was the guy who replaced Frank Gifford. And I'll never forget that I was out in Vancouver for the NHL All-Star Game, and Frank Gifford actually called me and said, "Boomer, if there were ever anybody that I would want my seat to go to, I would want it to be you. I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you Godspeed, and I'm just going to tell you right now, watch your back." Watch my back. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So after 2 years in the Monday night booth, I was fired. And there was a guy by the name of Joel Hollander, who I'm sure you all know very well. Joel had hired me as a kind of a guest spot with Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN when I was the Jet quarterback. And some of those Friday afternoons during the football season, and some of those really bad years, and that was one of those years included Richie Kotite as the head coach. It was like, I can't tell you, some of the best radio WFAN had ever had, and it was Friday afternoon. So Joel had knew me very well. And Joel said, after I was fired from Monday Night Football on television, "Would you want to go into the radio booth and do Monday Night Football for Westwood One. And I said, you know what, I'm not doing that because I'm coming from the biggest job in sports and I'm going to go to a lowly radio deal. I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm doing that. And then lo and behold, ABC decided a brilliant move. They hired Dennis Miller as the sports analyst. That's awesome. And that's all I needed to say. So I always tell people this, that while Dennis is a very bright guy and a very talented guy, a very good radio guy, he's great on Fox News. I love his spots with Bill O'Reilly and all those folks over there. The fact of the matter is when they did that, I knew that people were going to want to turn to the radio and listen to that instead of watching that crap on TV. So I took a job with Westwood One back in 2000. I've been with Westwood One, now known as Dial Global, since then, and I try to make every Monday night game, and I've done every Super Bowl since then on radio. And that's why I became really, truly in love with this medium. And the fact that WFAN chose me to be the morning host along with Craig Carton to fill some of the biggest shoes in the industry in terms of Don Imus. I am truly, truly honored. And I'm honored by this award here on behalf of Talkers Magazine. And I do, too, believe very wholeheartedly in freedom of speech, and hopefully everybody in here does as well. Thank you very much.